It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Oh, in the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God.
Hello, children of the night. Welcome back to Blood and Guts Creature Feature. With me, as always, Mad Matt. How's it going, Matt?
I'm in a very festive mood, Eel Adam, because as you know, we're getting closer to the holidays that we love, Christmas, or hopefully Friends and Fiends, whatever holiday you may be celebrating, whether it's Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, or if you don't celebrate holidays at all. We hope you enjoy this fine addition to Creature Features, because I know it's a movie that very beloved by a lot of people that come out in the 80s, and
That's
that,
right.
of course, is the great Gremlins.
Directed by Joe Dante. And as you can tell by our silly hats, it's the holiday episode. So we wanted to bring you this. Gremlins is one of those holiday films that... Now, we don't watch this one every year. You know, we have our staples.
Yeah.
Scrooged, All Through the House, Tales from the Crypt,
Yeah.
those type of things. This one we do not watch every year, but it is still a Christmas classic in
Right.
the eyes of many.
Yes.
So, do you guys watch this one quite a bit, or?
I'm not going to say that we watch it every year. Now, I will try to watch it more often. My kids, they like the movie and they definitely respect what it is, but it's not one that they're going to pick out. But now, if I pick it out and watch it, they will sit down and actually enjoy it too.
Yeah.
So it really just depends on if I get to pick that night. I may pick it, but kind of like what you said, Scrooge is my all-time favorite. So that's always my go-to.
Yep.
As you can see, if you can see my shirt. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, love that one too.
Yep, that's a
And,
classic.
A lot of other ones where we could go on all day long.
Yep.
But like I said, Gremlins, just fantastic film. Like I said, by Joe Dante. So horror fans, you know him from, he directed Piranha, one of the Piranhas. I can't remember which one. And then Howling's the one, obviously, where I was introduced to him. And it's one of my favorite werewolf films. It's a film that we ought to cover down the road. That goes without saying. But just thinking about how Joe Dante, on the heels of The Howling, teaming up with Steven Spielberg and his production company for this film. And like it was one back in the 80s, like you said, well, and we'll definitely touch on it, where it fans loved it, parents hated it.
And I think that's why, because Spielberg had his hand in it as well, that it has that whimsical feel.
Yes.
But it's got that Joe Dante feel as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that every time I think about this movie, and I'm jumping ahead here, but I think about Dick Miller's face.
Yeah.
When they drive the tractor, that he can't get it started. Then he's just cursing. He's drunk. He can't get the. But then they drive the tractor through his house, and he goes, oh!
That's what I love too, because he's speaking at the very beginning of the movie how gremlins are always in his tractor, and then all of a sudden he's like, "It's real gremlins, it's them." It's like you said, Dick Miller's so fantastic, because that's another staple of, like you said, where it has that Joe Dante feel. He's like, always in Joe Dante's movies. Whenever he can find a part, he's always looking for a role for Dick Miller. And like I say, you can never go wrong having him in your movie. So I always love that. But this movie here has a fantastic cast. You got Zach Galligan, who plays, Billy Peltzer. Mm-hmm. Phoebe Cates, from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, plays Kate.
Yep.
And the great Hoyt Axton, who plays Rand Peltzer, the inventor of the movie. And I love how every gadget in the house he's made always is on the fritz.
It's always on the fritz. They don't work very well, but they do work a little bit.
Right. And
I love the fact that his mother's like baking foods and pies and things. And his dad's this whimsical inventor.
And you make a good point, because I wonder if that one, because I didn't see it in my research though. I know the original idea of this movie come from Chris Columbus of Home Alone fame, and then they all wrote on it, expanded upon it. But I wonder if Steven Spielberg had a hand in that, like you said, because he has that whimsical feel to it, where like you said, that's almost a Spielberg touch to it.
Yeah, and even those little touches when you see, and this is also jumping ahead, at the convention when he's calling on Christmas Eve, and he's got all the crazy inventors coming all around him. There's a guy with a TV. There's a robot. There's all this type of stuff. That part might have been Spielberg. I mean, it has these great touches where it's borderline comedy horror, and it borderlines almost like a Goonies style, like
Yeah.
kind of feeling. So it also takes place in the scenic snowy town of Hill Valley.
Yes.
If you see this
Have a
film,
keen eye.
and you are a Back to the Future fan like us, then you will know. Shit, that's Hill Valley. It's just snowy. You know?
And I mean, and the funny part of it is, this come out a year before Back to the Future, so it's like you said, it's amazing how iconic it is now. And I know there's many other movies that uses that set and they just film it from different angles, so you're not seeing everything. But like I said, I've always spotted that and thought how awesome that is.
As soon as it captures that courthouse,
yes,
or the clock tower, whatever you want to call it, the courthouse, the clock tower, whatever it is in whatever film. As soon as you see that in those first opening scenes, you're like, oh, that's Hill Valley.
Yep.
So,
cutting back right to the cast, just a few more to round out. I know a lot of 80s fans here love the great, fantastic Judge Reinhold, or as people know him, Billy Rosewood from Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Like I said, in the 80s, he just had a plethora of fantastic roles, and he's one I still love to see to this day when he just pops up every now and then. I know he recently done the new Beverly Hills Cop movie. But you got a young Corey Feldman who plays the little kid selling Christmas trees named Pete. Like I said, that's awesome. And then rounding it out, you got the great Howie Mandel, who at the time, I didn't know who Howie Mandel was. I love him in Little Monsters now and stuff.
Right, Bobby's World. Remember that classic cartoon, Bobby's World?
That's such an underrated cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
But does the voice of Gizmo, does a fantastic job. And then you got Frank Welker and Michael Winslow both sharing duties on the role of Strike, the famous Gremlin. So, like I said, it's top to bottom. Great cast. There's some people we left out that we could mention. Like I know the one that plays Ruby Deagle, Polly Holiday. She does a fantastic job in that role because when I was a kid watching that, she always reminded me, even though she's not a witch, but she just has that Wicked Witch of the West feeling because she's coming in there to get Billy's dog from the bank. And
yeah. She's just rotten, and she's gonna get a comeuppance.
Yes, exactly.
And I love the way that they tear through the town and just the whole thing. It just and it's what's funny about this film to me is that how quickly the rules are broken.
Yes,
because he tells them at the beginning, there's only like 3-4 rules.
Yeah, just here. 3.
Yeah, and immediately they're broken.
And just to remind your friends and fiends, it's like don't feed them after midnight.
Yep.
Don't get them wet, and don't let them near bright light, especially sunlight, because it'll kill them.
That's right.
But just like a quick rundown of the plot, like you said, it's a fantastic job when they set up the movie when Rand Peltzer goes and wants to purchase the Mogwai, but the shopkeeper's like, no, that's a big responsibility. You can't do it. Gets it home. Like I said, it doesn't take no time where they break the rules, and then you have the new batch of Gremlins that come out, no pun intended, for the sequel. But Billy then takes it to the local high school teacher just to try to run tests on it and, gets them wet. Next thing you know, they're cocooning.
Yep.
Oh, it's like they eat after midnight where they cocoon. And that leads us to one of our favorite scenes in the whole movie. And we were just talking about this earlier, the scene with the mother. Like, give me your take on this. Break it down. Like, what do you love about this scene?
The fact of the matter is that the mother, she takes out like 4 or 5 of them.
Right.
Somewhere around there. One with the blender, of course, or the Blendomatic or whatever it's called. It's the big Coleman blender. The microwave, and then she obviously stabs the hell out of one of them off camera. You don't see that, but they got the green blood, so I guess that can kind of censor it a little bit. But like stabs it, and then so she's using a. If you notice in that scene, she's using a TV tray.
Yeah.
As a shield.
Right.
So she's got the TV tray folded in half. She's picked it up like you would eat your TV dinner off of that. For you younger folks that might not know what those are. And she's using that as a shield. And she's got, the knife and the tray as like Captain America stuff.
Yeah. Like a shield.
Yeah. And just taking them out one by one. Putting the one in the microwave. That's great. And you hear the beep, beep, beep. Boom. And it pops. It's so great.
One of my favorite images from that scene, just to piggyback on that a little bit, is when she goes into the living room and you see the Christmas tree and the red eyes blend in with the decorations before it comes out and attacks her. I just thought that was brilliantly done, brilliantly shot by Joe Dante. And I love the pacing of that scene, how it builds up tension because, honestly, even though it is a PG movie, you don't know what's going to happen with the mother there. Like it's because it starts, things are starting to get out of control, and you don't know how far they're going to take it.
Yeah,
she, like I said, because she's decimating them left and right.
Because she is, and you think for a second, what's going to happen? Is she going to survive this?
Right.
They've killed the. Well, would you say he's killed the science teacher?
I think he's. Well, he might have been. I can't remember.
It doesn't. Does it really resolve that? I can't quite remember either.
Leave us in the comments, friends and fiends, because obviously we're drawing a blank on that right now.
Yeah, because I know that he finds the science teacher face down. He's got a syringe in him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to assume he's dead.
I'm going to assume he's dead as well,
Yeah.
but maybe he's not, because maybe he is just unconscious or bitten or hurt. I don't know.
Right.
But I was trying to think about that when I was watching it earlier. I was like, it's kind of hard to determine who's really dead and who's not unless it actually really shows
it out.
Yeah.
Because then moving right along, like I said, you covered that scene. That was another good scene when they build up tension when he first comes in there and it's obviously escaped and he doesn't know it's broke out of that cocoon and now a new metamorphosis in the new gremlin or whatever you may call it.
Yep.
But then we get to the meat of the movie where they actually break out into the town. They're just wreaking havoc everywhere. And so like two scenes that come to mind. We touched on earlier is the Futtermans when it breaks in with the tractor right through through his living room.
Through Dick Miller's house, drives through it with a tractor.
Yeah, you see how his surprise and how that drove him crazy, and I kind of love how they touch on that in part 2. But that's a story for another day.
Yep.
But then the next thing I think about is when they go deal with Ruby, and she's going to pay for her sins from earlier in the movie where Karma comes back and gets her. And that's going to be another one where I'm assuming she died. Like, you don't really hear it for sure, but getting thrown out of a second floor window.
Second floor window at a high speed moving, I don't know what you would call those devices. It's a
chairlift.
A chairlift for a disabled person or that thing, they've rewired it. It's moving at high speed because if you watch that scene back, she comes out of that window fast, dude. She comes out of the window fast and just goes flying. She's probably about what?
It's wrong because
she's probably about 40, 50 feet up in the air, maybe
definitely.
more.
And I say it's wrong because you don't want to see somebody in real life get hurt, but man, that's why she's such a great actress, because she does exactly what she's supposed to do with that character, make you hate her.
Here's what I want you to do, fans, is I want you to go back and watch that, even if it's just that scene. And I watched it earlier, and I had the volume up, and when she goes through the window, the chair comes around at high speed, and you hear that thud.
Yeah.
I know it's snowing.
Yeah.
But you hear a very clear pop on the thud.
Right.
And I'm like, that I mean, in the Spielberg universe, it might knock the wind out of you.
Right.
But in the real world, that thud means that you're gone.
Oh, definitely.
So,
So then moving right along, then we kind of get to the finale, like where they're all gathered up in the theater. You hear Kate's wonderful story about her father climbing down the chimney and trying to surprise him with Santa and breaking her neck and all that good stuff. And I love how, at least it's been reported, that people back in the 80s hated that scene. Like I said, they just thought it was too melodramatic, complained about it. So when you see in part 2, when she starts telling a similar type of story, they cut her off. And it's kind of like what we're talking about. Could you imagine like people actually taking the time out of their day to either write or to call?
You had to write or
Warner
call.
Brothers,
yeah.
And get that in. I just wonder, how much time do you have in your day to do that?
I don't know, but that was obviously her Captain Quint, Jaws, Indianapolis story.
Right.
Is what I feel like that was her,
Yeah.
The sharks became a circle, and that was her story.
So
zooming in
zooming
in really slow on her, and that bar scene. Let's back it up a little bit. That bar scene is just total chaos. And I watched that too, and recently after rewatching, I'm like, they could have broke it up a little bit with show some her reactions, their crazy antics.
Yeah. Like
back and forth.
Yeah, like talking about touch before, that reminds me of the Christmas Carol, and that's a beautiful scene too. Just makes you laugh.
Oh yeah.
Then speaking about the finale, though, what did you think about the grand finale and how they took care of them in the movie theater?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like now to go on record, Gremlins 2, to me, is a bit superior.
I agree.
And I enjoy that one more. But I do like the fact that they went into the theater. They did the,
lure them in with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs,
Yes.
and they're all, like I said, eating their popcorn. Then
they're eating their popcorn. They're almost singing along. They're like in awe of it,
Then have the big explosion. So overall, like I said, I think this is a fantastic movie. Just a couple of things before we wrap up thoughts. One thing I love about this movie is the special effects, and you got Chris Wallace coming back in to do the special effects of the Gremlins, and he does a great job. Like, he's hot off the success of The Howling and that werewolf transformation. Like, did great, and he was mentored by the great Rick Baker. So
exactly.
He's learned from the right people. He's got the right tricks.
Yep.
Now, I will say, kind of like we were talking about Gremlins 2, and it's a story for another day, though, but Rick Baker comes home to do the effects for that one. And I do think the Gremlins look a whole lot, which they have a few more years of technology under the belt, so I don't want to, just totally...
Yeah, practice and technology,
right.
Of course, yeah.
But I love the looks of them better in the second one.
Sure.
One last thing, too, that I forgot to bring up, or actually a couple of things. One thing I do love about this movie, too, and especially if you're a Joe Dante fan, this movie is connected to the Howling universe, because you have in the middle of the movie, when all the chaos is going on in the town, you have that reporter from the Howling playing the same character reporting on the news what is going on. And I just think that is a great touch, especially if you're a horror fan and you catch that and you're like, oh man, look, it's the same guy. We can connect these dots. So it's the same universe. And not only in this universe, we got werewolves and we got gremlins, man. So what else can we do later on?
Yeah.
And
that back to the bar scene too is there. If you watch that scene, there's a few where it kind of zooms into. I want to call him. I don't know if it has an official name. The jazz gremlin. He's wearing a fedora hat.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
And he's listening to jazz, and the other one's got puppets, and it's kind of like pissing him off. So he like smacks him down with some kind of bottle or pan or something. I don't know, whatever he's got. But if you watch that scene closely, you can almost see the parts of the table move where the puppeteers are under there.
Right.
And I do love to notice stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's just such a good scene where he's just, they're all chain smoking, they're drinking in the bar, and they're having a good time. But if you watch certain scenes, you can definitely see the puppets, like the breakdown of the puppets. And I do enjoy that because... Did it take me out of the movie? No, of course not.
Right.
Because I'm like, they're supposed to be zany. They're all hopped up, right now. So I do love that part.
No, I'm with you on that. Last thing I want to bring up, this is a good topic of conversation, but this movie here, along with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, both released in 1984, is kind of what led to the PG-13 rating. Because this one here, to be a PG movie like we're talking about, is pretty dark in places.
Oh, yeah, it
has a lot of violence and some blood and gore. And like I said, they do a good job of making the blood green to where it's not overly frightening.
Sure.
But do you feel that a PG-13 rating was warranted for this, or do you still think it was tame enough? I know today, looking at that in 2024 versus 1984.
That's a really good question.
It's going to look tame by today's standards, but do you think it was worth the controversy then?
I don't think it was worth the controversy, but I think either way it would have got a PG-13.
Yeah.
Now, I think if they would have really went hard and attacked, and there would have been human blood drawn, on some scale like the Howling style,
right?
Then you're looking at R. But for this, no, you don't.
See, I'm with, and I guess maybe because I am a little biased, because obviously we grew up in the 80s and the 90s. Movies like this, I mean, we had movies like RoboCop selling toys to us, so So to me, it didn't seem so bad. So I'm like you. I don't think it was really warranted. To me, it almost boils down to more, which it's easy for me to say now. There wasn't a lot of research they could have done at the time before they went to the movies, other than word of mouth.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I don't know. I think it was a lot of Karens.
Yep.
Getting upset.
I agree, because I let my kids watch this since they were crawling.
Oh yeah.
No, like I said, no big deal. Just me, it just toughens them up. But
yeah, I mean, this is not. It's not that scary, and it's not that violent. I mean, it borderlines whimsical. But then you look at films like Goonies.
Yep.
And those type of films, same kind of stuff. I mean, just
you're exactly right, and I mean. Granted, now they do have that PG-13 rating where you can try to push the envelope a little bit, but no, you got to pull it back for that R rating. And like I said, I don't mind it, but I do hate when studios themselves try to tame themselves to get that PG-13 rating because they think it's the sweet spot to make more money.
Yeah, I don't.
When you see movies today like Deadpool and Wolverine, who are really ready to push the envelope, and it's making tons of cash.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, if you got a great idea and you got a great vision, if your vision calls for a PG-13, that's fantastic. But if you have an R-rated vision that you really want to push for, don't curb it and don't try to tame it.
Right.
Just go with it. That's what I'm saying.
And this works well in that favor of PG-13. I mean, this. Yeah, you could show this today at a school. Back in our day, the teachers used to wheel out this big, huge TV on a cart. And be like, "Oh, it's movie day. We know we're getting off light today."
Right.
And if they put the Gremlins on, I wouldn't complain at all.
Not at all. So that being said, Evil Adam, how many Goldblums would you give Gremlins?
I'm giving it 4.
I'm right there with you. I'll give it a 4. Like I said, to me, it's a fantastic movie. It's one like I said, I don't watch it every year, but I don't go longer than a few years without putting it on. I think for me, like what brings it from a 4 as opposed to like a 4.5 or a 5, there is still some spots even in the 80s, like when you have the stop motion, it kind of takes me out of it a little bit. And there's some parts like in the middle where it kind of drags down, slows down a little bit. Yeah. Not saying it has to be fast paced the whole movie, but it almost comes to a crawl. So that's kind of like why I'm giving it a 4. But I think it's a fantastic movie. It's obviously a cult classic for a reason, or not even a cult classic. It's just a classic.
Yeah, it's a total classic. And you know what? Throw it on, guys. Like, if you love it, throw it on every holiday. If you don't, throw it on every 2-3 years, 4 years, whatever. And I think
by
it's
chance,
good
if
for
you
the
haven't,
kids.
by chance, if you have not seen it, give her a watch. We really think you will enjoy Gremlins, and like I said, it might put you in that festive spirit.
Yeah.
And give you some type of, even though it's mild horror, it's still a horror itself. You can get wet your palate with that as well.
Yeah, and it's totally one of those films that it's decent for kids. It's not too over the top. It's still got your adult like kind of comedy in there. Some black comedy is in there for you. Some B comedy. So yeah, throw it on. And as always, no matter what holiday you celebrate, Children of the Night, we wish you the best, and we hope that you and your families are well and warm, and you got a good meal of food and a nice good drink.
Warm place to sleep.
Warm place to sleep. And as always, stay spooky. And remember.
It ain't nowhere near it though, right? Nothing's near it.
No, you're all right.
Okay. Well, all I can see is the smoke coming up. I never do, so that freaked me out.
It's all right. If it catches a flame, I'll use this awful hat.
Okay.
That I might leave in.
Santa's being nice. What's wrong with being nice?
I use this awful hat to put it out.
I seen the smoke. I was like, God, is it catching fire?
That'd be something. Just wipe it out.
Well, you remember that?